So what then happens is, but with the holy month of Ramadan underway, one cannot ignore the distinctly modern tinges in the explanations circulating for its many benefits. So sometimes in an attempt to understand, which is, okay, that makes sense, but also sometimes to appease. But the danger here is that she's pointing out is that we fall into a type of discourse without realizing it, where we're narrowing how it is that we should really be presenting this fast. So contemporary discourse oftentimes on the benefits increasingly neglects its moral and metaphysical essence, offering material explanations instead. Either fasting is to feel as the poor feel, appealing to the West's fragmented moral understanding, where the only mode of existence is the material, or fasting is associated for health benefits, as validated by science. While both explanations offer worthwhile, morally decent incentives for fasting, they are inherently physical and reduce Ramadan to the material. So it doesn't mean that you don't at times try to explain to people in some of these ways, and it doesn't mean that it's not a part of the reality. If you look at our outline, that the last thing that we're going to be talking about, the wisdom there, is that the health benefits. There's definitely, our Prophet said, Sumu tasihhu. Whether it's scientifically proven or not, I don't care. If the Prophet said, fast and you will be healthy, they'll catch up one day to that's reality. Intaha al-amr. Done. And look at what we hear about now about intermittent fasting and all this. We don't even need that. That's one of the benefits. There's no doubt. But we don't intend that when we fast. The fast is well beyond that. You're fasting for Allah. Allah. It's like using something like the siwak. Our Prophet ﷺ said about the siwak that a stick from a tree, that what use is a stick from a tree in reality? When it's connected to the Rasul, it's aldeem, it's great. And he says it's matharatun lil fam. Okay, there's benefits that relate to dental hygiene. It cleans your mouth. Okay, and we know the importance of fasting, and our Prophet flossed us, but he also said masghatatun lil shaitan, that displeases shaitan, but it's mardatun lil Rabb, it pleases Allah. So of all of, they mentioned some close like 90 something benefits of the siwak, the greatest one is yudhakkirak bi la ilaha illallah and al-maut, is that it reminds you to say la ilaha illallah just before you die. And it's why everybody should have a siwak. And if you're from a different one school that you only do it when you make wudu, marhaban, just do it when you make wudu. If you're from another school where you do it, they took from the hadith where you do it for wudu or you do it before prayer, follow that. But bring a siwak. Even if you brush your teeth with a toothbrush, an electronic toothbrush, or whatever you do, that add to it a siwak. Because the spiritual benefit is the greatest benefit of all. And it trumps all of the other benefits. We don't deny those other benefits, but that's the greatest one. And this is what we have to recognize. Look at some of the hadith we just heard about fasting. وَصَوْمُ لِي. Allah Jalla Jalaluhu is claiming the fast. Fasting is for me. وَأَنَا أَجْزِي بِهِ. And I will recompense for it. What else do you want? And you're going to try to focus on the health benefits? Of course there's going to be health benefits. But like Allah is saying that fasting is for me. Subhanallah. And then the different narrations of that leaving things that we normally like doing solely for the sake of Allah. Allahu Akbar. What a beautiful thing. So she then goes on to point out a number of other dimensions which are also very helpful for us to think about. And this could be under the broader rubric of what could be called creeping consumerism. And she says, nevertheless, there's a deeper, more damaging force at play. Our assimilation into the capitalist structure via globalization. Corporations now slap halal marketing labels on meat, finance, clothing, and more. having their form made nominally appearing to Muslim consumers who struggle to find Islamically viable options. The products and services presented for Muslim consumption are outcomes of the same usurious, exploitative, dehumanized, and un-Islamic weapons and un-Islamic systems we decry. Our clothes come from exploited labor in sweatshops, our food from industrialized slaughterhouses and chemical plants polluting our environment, and our finances from the interest-based deceptive global banking system. In a system that celebrates these things as marks of progress in human betterment, it can be difficult to recognize the profound subversions at play. Liberalism undermines the philosophical and moral essence of our customs, resulting in form devoid of meaning. So it doesn't mean, because this is a system, that we're going to figure this out overnight. But we have to be aware of this, because this is the society we're living in. And we have to make informed decisions on every aspect of our life and everything that is that we do to combat this and to confront these various tendencies. Now, we don't have time to go in. This is a whole weekend in itself or more. What are ways that we can go against the grain in the society? But you and I make choices all the time. Where do we buy our groceries? What groceries do we buy? What things do we do with our money? You and I make choices all of the time. And we're going to be asked about what it is that we chose. And what I'm saying is that let's try to start the process where we are more aware of our time and do the best we can, knowing that we're trapped in a system. And sometimes our ijtihad might be wrong. And there actually was a better option, but Allah will give us reward for trying to live as ethically as possible, as clean as possible, as that good for the environment as possible, and so forth and so on. We get reward for trying. And we do it even though we know things are going to get worse in the world, because it's the right thing to do. We're principled people. And we're taught to live according to our principles no matter what. Even if we only have one moment left in life, live up to your principle. And for this reason, they say, the sign that you're sincere in seeking sacred knowledge is that were you to imagine that you're going to die the next day, you have the same aspiration to learn as you do thinking that you're going to live until your 70s or 80s. Because if you're seeking knowledge for dunya and you think about losing the world that you are seeking, you're no longer going to want to study. And even if you're not going to finish the book that you're studying, that might take 2 months to study. You want to meet Allah, doing what is beloved to Him, and mastering that one legal issue or those particular questions that are in that paragraph or two that you're studying on that day. And you meet Allah that way. SubhanAllah.